Hi, my name is Daniel Olikin, and myself and my partner Ruben O'Dwyer will be demonstrating our third year project, which is the concept of a Dublin City University retrieval augmented generation chat. So, we're going to start off initially with the front end. The front end was built using React, and it provides a kind of conversational interface that allows users to just submit questions and receive AI generated responses along with supported document sources. The goal of the design really was to create a clean, modular, and scalable interface that integrates seamlessly with our backend system that we will be going through in depth later on. Before we start this, I'm going to start with the front end, and I'm just going to give you a architectural overview to the front end. So here we can see the front end acting as a bridge between the user and the backend RAG system. So here we see the user interacts with the React user interface. The UI then communicates through a dedicated API layer. This layer then sends requests to the backend or the chat endpoint. The backend then performs retrieval and generation and then returns an answer and an answer along with the sources, as you'll see later. And then finally, the front end updates dynamically. We intentionally separate API logic from UI components just to kind of maintain a clean separation of concerns and also allowed us improve maintainability of this application. So I'm going to take you through the code. And as you can see, we start off here with this chat page JavaScript file. And essentially, the chat page acts as a controller of the front end. It manages all the core chat state, including messages, is loading, error for handling failures, the conversation ID to maintain kind of session context, and active source to control the source drawer. It connects the rest of the API. The UI components together. So, for example, there should be Composer. Yeah. So, for example, Composer handles input user inputs from the user and handles send, which you will see down here. Message list renders the messages and displays kind of the latest sources or etc. Source drawer opens when a source is clicked, which takes you to the university website. Send chat message handles communication, kind of talking with the backend. And this handle send function, as you can see here, this is what drives the entire interaction flow. So it'll validate input, it adds user message to state, it sends the request to the backend, and then it appends this assistance response, including sources, when it returns. So as you can see, we also extract the latest assistant messages sources using use memo. So this means that only the most recent sources are displayed, and it avoids kind of stale data or untrue data being displayed. Overall, this component acts as the central coordinator between user input and backend communication, and it allows UI rendering, and it basically just keeps the whole architecture clean and modular for the user, which is the most important thing in this. Another thing I wanted to mention here is the management of the states and the data flow. So state management is handled by React's useState hook. So as you can see throughout, you will see useState throughout this file. We chose to use this instead of global state because global state management, in our research we found there's a couple of global state management tools such as like Redux or Context, and we decided not to go with this because I feel like adding this would have kind of just added unnecessary complexity, especially for the scale of this application, and it just wasn't needed, and it would make our jobs a lot more harder. So the data flow follows kind of React's how do I say, unidirectional pattern. So the user enters a text in Composer. As you can see, there's a Composer file here. Handle send is triggered. The message is then added to the local state and a request is sent through the API layer. The backend returns an answer and sources, and the assistant message is appended to the state. The UI then re-renders this automatically, and this is kind of what this chat page does. It helps this, and it's, as I said, once again, the controller of the front end. The predictable structure of this, for me, it allowed me improve the debugging and also the scalability, which was key for this application. The next most important thing within the code was the API integration layer. So all backend communication is abstracted from this singular file here, and this API JavaScript file. The send chat message function, as you can see here, handles interaction with the chat endpoints. This abstraction, I found it helped improve code readability, reusability, and testability. And overall, it ensured that the UI components remain like focused on like presentation and interaction, really. Throughout this, we also implemented a mock mode during the development, which allowed us to simulate responses without relying on the back end. This made development faster and kind of helped us scope out any edge cases, bottlenecks, and it also just made development faster. The last thing I will touch before we get into the back end is the UI kind of and the UX design decisions that we came up with. So as you can see here is our global CSS page. This was responsible for the designing, and all the designing went down here. Watched a couple of videos on key CSS techniques that we could use here, and this is what kind of helped us come up with this. So if we take a look at the actual page, which optically reflects what went on in this global CSS page. First of all, as you can see, it's very simplistic, it's very sleek. The UI was designed to be minimal, intuitive, and also just very clearly readable. As you can see, everything is extremely readable. There's no kind of awkward contrast in colors. The DCU colors are usually blue and yellow, which is what we went. So we kept that consistent theme, and we can see it here, yellow send button and a dark navy kind of color. Key design decisions included a kind of clear visual distinction between user and assistant messages, a scrollable chat layout that you can see when we start showing questions, disabled input while loading, so you can't input while it's loading an answer, and error banners for kind of failed requests. Because this is a RAG system, exposing document sources was important. And this, I felt like, to me, this design balanced usability with transparency, ensuring that the system feels very conversational while still exposing retrieval logic. So to conclude the front end was designed with modularity, clear state management, and predictable data flow in mind. And I feel this helped the front end flourish on this aspect.
My name is Ruben. I'll be going over our backend and giving a quick demo on our actual system. First, I'll go over how we actually make our database. So it starts from our crawler, which basically it takes our seed URL, then visits all the links there associated with it, just based on what keywords are in the URL. So we want to ignore all these ones because they're not useful for our system and just add noise, and visit any ones that contain this. And we download HTML, then we save that file as the actual URL name, which just allows for easy citation later. And that's all this really does. All these functions are based on saving the URL as the file name and just deciding whether we should actually follow links and save them. The output is just a bunch of HTML files that saves URL name, and manifest, which is just metadata associated with the actual source URL. This helps our chunks later. That leads us to clean pages. In this one, we're parsing our HTML file and splitting them up based on, in general, H2. So we take each H2, then get all the text between that and the next H2 and save and split that. We also have some edge cases that just aren't in H2 that we also deal with more specifically. That's the main idea there. So now we get clean pages. It's basically so document ID, URL, title. It's just a bunch of metadata and text. And from that, if you want to chunk those clean pages. So here we're just taking those clean pages and we're splitting them up as necessary. And that's just the main idea there. And from then we want to get these chunks here. So I see chunk ID, with our labels, our text, it's just different metadata. Just helps with our retrieval later on. And then we go for actually build Chroma, which we're going to build our Chroma database, our index. So basically we're taking our chunks, filtering the metadata. We're like removing ones that are too small. That's the main idea there. We have Ask Chroma. So this is just for debugging user development. It's not actually used in our pipeline. With retrieve, this is just our semantic retrieval and a simple metadata bonus. Just cosine similarity, and then metadata bonus is just based on certain common queries that we want to get right. We have answer rag. This one basically it loads our database, so it's only done once, and then it takes the query, then returns the relevant chunks, builds the context for the LLM, then builds the answer for the LLM, and it returns the LLM's answer and also the sources. So this is the main one that's actually used by our front end. Yeah, so that's our backend there. Go over a demo for you now of the actual system. Okay, so this is our UI. This is what the users see. We see a simple FAQ on the left, just asking some basic questions. And also a quick disclaimer, it's explaining that you should always verify the answers with the sources. And I'll show you in action now. So you can just ask any question about DCU here, really. So say, what modules do you study in year 3 of computer science? Let's say. Yep, there you go. And the format for the answers is basically this one refers to the source that this information is from. So this is basically saying this information is from source 1. So you can just click this link and confirm that. And it'll bring you to the position on the page that information is from. So it allows for really quick asking questions, getting answers. Then you can have a look in more detail or verify by clicking the link. And yeah, that's all correct. Another question would be something, what are the CEO points for data science and AI, let's say. Yeah, again, it's number 1, so let's click the link. Yep, 500, and see, that's correct. I'll go for a more vague one, like, tell me about the bachelor's in business studies. Yep, so it gives you a nice overview there. And you can see this actually references multiple chunks. Or, yeah. So 1 and 5 is view 1. Yep, just nice overview there. Then view number 5 as well, which gives us our course structure. And now I'll go for a question, I guess, out of scope. Maybe tell me the capital of China. As you can see, you'll answer incorrectly right away because like the question actually only reaches the LLM if even semi-relevant chunks are returned. So for this one, it's a very quick no because nothing's even remotely similar. And yeah, I mean, that's the system there, really. Thank you very much.